Good afternoon and welcome back to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at MarketSite is Dr. Phillip Chan. He's the CEO of Nasdaq-listed CytoSorbents. Thank you very much for joining us at MarketSite today. And it's pretty cool. We have some props with us today. And this is why we call CytoSorbent technology Brita for blood, because it looks like one of the filters. Tell us about CytoSorbents, specifically the CytoSorb technology.
Sure. Well, Jill, thank you very much for having me on the show today. CytoSorbents is a medical device company that specializes in blood purification to treat deadly inflammation and life-threatening illnesses commonly seen in the intensive care unit, like sepsis, burn injury, trauma, pancreatitis, liver failure, complications of cancer immunotherapy such as cytokine release syndrome on one hand, and also treatment of inflammation that happens in high-risk cardiac surgery on the other hand. CytoSorb, our product, is approved in the European Union, now in 45 countries around the world, with now more than 40,000 human uses using it to treat this deadly inflammatory response that can lead to organ failure in many patients.
Right. Well, former President Bush was diagnosed with sepsis. He was in the hospital with it. What is it, and why is it such a dangerous diagnosis?
Yeah, sepsis is the overzealous immune response to life-threatening infection that can lead to catastrophic organ failure. And so if you've ever had the flu, you've had a mini sepsis. But imagine that 10 times worse. That is causing catastrophic damage around the body, and today there are no approved therapies to treat it. Sepsis afflicts 30 million people around the world, killing 6 to 9 million people every year, despite the use of antibiotics and the best medical treatment. No one has a good way of treating that deadly inflammatory response, and no one has a good way of preventing organ failure from happening, and I think that's one of the reasons why CytoSorb is becoming kind of a go-to therapy for the treatment of sepsis around the world.
I didn't know flu was considered a sepsis. Great, now I'd be a hypochondriac next time I get the flu. I'm going to be like, hello, CytoSorb? But what happens if it isn't treated? I would imagine it leads to severe problems down the road.
Oh, absolutely. The problem with life-threatening inflammation is that inflammation generally is your body's normal way of dealing with injury and infection. However, when it gets so severe, cells die, organs become damaged, ultimately leading to organ failure, which is the leading cause of death in the ICU today. And so what we're trying to do with CytoSorb is bring that under control with a blood filter. So inside the CytoSorb cartridge are these highly porous polymer beads that act like tiny sponges to extract these toxic inflammatory mediators from blood. And it's used very simply. You hook this up to a standard dialysis machine found in the ICU or a standard heart-lung machine found in the operating room, and then you just pass blood through it. It extracts these toxic inflammatory mediators from blood, and that purified blood goes back into the body, and in doing so, it's helping bring that inflammatory response under control.
How would you quantify the global market for a device like CytoSorb?
We estimate that the total market is about $20 billion across critical care as well as in cardiac surgery. It's a massive market. To put it into context, in the United States alone, we spend almost $110 billion on critical care medicine every single year, because all we have really in the ICU are supportive care therapies like mechanical ventilation when the lungs fail, dialysis when the kidneys fail, et cetera. There really aren't any therapies to actually help patients get better, right? And so these are some of the biggest unmet medical needs in medicine today, and that's, again, one of the reasons why CytoSorb has been gaining popularity. Currently, last year we had $13.4 million in sales of CytoSorb. That was up 63% from $8.2 million a year ago. Healthy blended gross margins of 71%, up from 67% a year ago, and looking at hopefully another record year in 2018.
All right, and to wrap up, what's the future look like for CytoSorbents?
Well, we are hoping to hit several major milestones this year. One is operating profitability later this year on a quarterly basis. And I think when we do that, we'll be in a very unique class of medical device companies that not only are growing at a very rapid rate, but are also have the potential to be profitable as well. And we're doing so with the help of major strategic partners like Fresenius Medical Care, the largest dialysis company in the world, Terumo Cardiovascular, the largest cardiac surgery disposables company in the world, Biocon, the largest biotechnology company in India, as well as Dr. Reddy's, a global pharmaceutical firm. And the second major milestone is, for the first time in our history, we are actually in a pivotal registration trial designed to get CytoSorb approved in the United States, initially for cardiac surgery. This week, we just announced our first patient enrollment in the Refresh 2 cardiac surgery trial, and hopefully we'll be able to get CytoSorbents, if everything goes well, on the market within the next several years.
All right, we look forward to having you back at MarketSite to celebrate those milestones.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.